Welcome to the Unlearning Room, a space to pause, get curious, and question what we've been taught. I'm your host, Mary Cat, or some of you may know me as Cecily May. Today's episode is both personal and universal. It's about pivots, the kind that shake up your career, your identity, and the story you thought you were living. It's about redefining what success looks like and unlearning the scripts we've been told about how our lives should unfold. So settle in, take a breath, and let's step into the room together. What happens when the career or calling you thought was it no longer fits? Much of my adult life was lived inside the identity of military spouse. Managing relocations, keeping in contact with family afar on both sides, deployments, and the emotional labor of making every new place a home. Change felt like it was the only constant. In many ways, being a military spouse was like a full-time job. One without paychecks or promotions, but full of invisible responsibilities that shaped who I became. Before motherhood, my path was eclectic. Sometimes I was pursuing passions, like cosmetology school while we were stationed in Guam. Other times, I was fully at home. And at different points, I found myself volunteering my time for charity work or organizing social events or running clubs for other spouses on base. It wasn't linear, it was patchwork. But each piece taught me something about resilience, creativity, leadership, and community, as well as about myself. And then I became a mother. And motherhood was the most grounding identity I carried. It gave me roots in the middle of those constant waves of transition, and it reminded me daily of what mattered most. I felt fulfilled in staying home full-time with my daughter. There was clarity around knowing that I wanted to be home with her and gratitude for the privilege to make that choice in today's world. I had not had any formal job for a couple of years before she was born, and I didn't step back into part-time work until she was in kindergarten, working at her school so I could stay connected and close to her world. My various roles and job paths over the years weren't linear. It was more like playing the game The Floor is Lava, always improvising, always leaping to the next closest spot. And then came divorce. Quite possibly the biggest and most intense shift of my life. Suddenly, I needed more than adaptability. I wanted to be present for my daughter, yeah, but I also needed financial stability. I had to forge a career outside of wife, one that allowed me to stand on my own 2 feet. And there was no question about it. I wanted to be able to work from home for my daughter, as she was still young, and this change in our family was a life-changing shift for her too. So I poured myself into the world of mental health and coaching. I cobbled together the building blocks: trauma recovery coaching, internal family systems courses, breath work, certification in synergetic play therapy. I made each choice and decision with intentionality so I could responsibly forge a path to parent coaching. After years of living in constant transition, I finally built something that felt like mine. I was proud of myself. No, my career path wasn't typical, yet I was able to develop frameworks like the CARE method and build tools designed to help parents, caregivers, and families feel more supported and resourced. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just orbiting around someone else's career or schedule. I was carving out a space of my own. And to be honest, there was validation in that. People responded, my ideas mattered. I could see the impact the families I worked with and the reflections from those who engaged with my work. But alongside the validation came exhaustion. The reality of running an online business, the ads, the endless marketing, the constant need to churn out content. It all started to drain me. I was spending every ounce of energy I had, and the return wasn't keeping up with what it cost me. It wasn't one dramatic night at a desk. It was the slow noticing that every time I pushed harder in my business, my health would dip. And when my health suffered, my daughter felt it too. Even on nights when I was physically there with her, I wasn't fully present. I was exhausted. My mind was still half in the emails, the content, the to-dos. The truth is, as someone with limited spoons, every ounce of energy I give has to be intentional. And what I began to see was that the return on all that energy didn't match the cost. The more I poured out, the less I had left for the parts of life that mattered most. If success comes at the expense of my well-being and her sense of safety, then to me, that's not success. If it requires me to keep stretching beyond what's sustainable just to prove I can, then that's not success. And of course, life just lifes. And throughout those building phases of the business, life happened. And it forced me to pause. First, my daughter's health needed my full attention. Twice, actually. And later, my own body called me to stop. I had to admit that I could not keep pouring myself into this business the way it demanded while still being present enough for her and for me. You see, everything was connected. If my health faltered, everything else faltered too. A wise friend once said, "Sacrifice must be well defined and well aligned with everyone's benefit in mind." For me, the energy sacrifice to build a coaching business is no longer aligned. And as this has become more clear to me, I have found myself in an unexpected season. Retail. At first, it felt like a step backwards, but it's been surprisingly nourishing. This job allows me to lean into my hospitality skills, the ones that often got buried under the behind-the-scenes grind of running a business. It's not forever, but it doesn't need to be. Not every job has to be permanent. You see, every experience sharpens skills, teaches something new, or reveals something old in a different light. And here's the best part for me. The managers I work with see me. They've created an atmosphere where every employee can show up as they are. They're flexible with my schedule so that I can prioritize motherhood, especially those after-school hours, dinners, and evenings when my daughter needs me the most. And for me, that matters more than anything. And at the same time, I've been exploring a new path. Corporate. The idea of stepping into that world felt scary at first, but also grounding. It's a different way of being seen. I've been working on CAPM training, rewriting resumes, and honestly, learning to speak a new language, corporate lingo, job descriptions, organizational roles. And in the process, I've had to get clear on what I want. What kind of roles will see my value not just as a body to do a job, but as someone who brings depth, perspective, and resilience. As I explore the beginnings of this new chapter, I am continually asking myself, where can I keep growing rather than just surviving? And here's the thread tying all of this together. For so long, I thought success looked like one thing, one path, one identity. But unlearning has shown me that success can take many forms. I was raised to be an extension of others, to support their success, to keep the spotlight off of myself. Over the last decade, I've been slowly unraveling that belief. And what I've discovered is that success doesn't have to be a single linear climb. Sometimes it's steady presence. Sometimes it's health. Sometimes it's giving yourself permission to pivot. You see, the truth is, names aren't the only masks we wear. Careers can be masks too. Titles, roles, even job descriptions can become containers that define or confine us. Think about how many of us shrink or stretch ourselves to fit into a career box that someone else created. The entrepreneur who never stops grinding. The professional who always climbs the ladder. The organized stay-at-home mom. And here's the nervous system's secret. Hustle culture frays regulation. Rushing is a threat state. And when it becomes a habit or our pattern, we don't actually reach true rest or recovery in our cycle of our threat responses. Instead, our bodies flip between hyperdrive, like go, go, go energy, and collapse. You know, that feeling you get when you're done and think, I'm exhausted, and then proceed to stay on the sofa all weekend. No judgment, of course. I've been there too. That ping pong cycle isn't resilience. It's survival mode. Chronic dysregulation. It's all roads leading to burnout. In synergetic play therapy, there's this idea that shoulds push us out of our window of tolerance. Every time we should ourselves, like, I should be further along. I should have it figured out by now. I should look like them. It actually cues our nervous system into dysregulation. Kind of like an internal panic mode of, shit, how do we fix this? Our body interprets it like a demand, like pressure. And that's not realistic standards, at least not ones that allow us to feel grounded in our choices. Instead, we stay in a consistent state of pressure. And no, I'm not saying stress or pressure are bad. Rather, when they become the normal state of our nervous system, we don't thrive. We perform, or we shut down. Either way, we end up disconnecting from presence. If you're not driving, maybe pause here. Write down the first should you've carried today, just one, and notice what happens in your body when you see it on paper. Nothing more, just notice what comes up in your body or what words you hear in your head, and just be with it. Internal family systems, also known as IFS, gives us another lens. Inside of us, parts hold different fears and dreams, and vulnerabilities and protective measures. Sometimes they are polarized, which can actually create anxiety as they battle out whose concerns or shoulds are more important. Here's kind of an example of what I'm talking about. The parts of me that wanted to be home for my daughter and wanted to create impact in our society helped propel me in building a coaching business. While the part of me that felt I should prioritize financial stability kept bringing my attention to creative ideas like retail or exploration of corporate jobs. This part really wants a steady paycheck. That feels like safety. In this scenario, neither concern or part is wrong. All are real and valid, and in their own ways, they make sense in the context of my story. The work is learning to hold both, finding a balance without forcing one to disappear or shaming one side. And let's be honest, that never helps anyway. Shaming ourselves just creates more anxiety, rumination, and fear spiraling, For me, the balancing of all parts connected to both concerns or sides looks like giving myself permission to take this retail job as I pull way back with marketing my business, while also mindfully applying to corporate jobs that align with my values and my skills. As far as where that leaves me with my business in the future, I'm not completely sure yet. And that's okay. I do know that I am leaving the season of full-blown entrepreneurship for now and giving myself permission to explore different paths, a new season of sorts. And with all of this that I share, what's layered over all of it is the impact of our culture. Society tells men that their worth is in being able to provide financially for their families, that their image and their hours at the office are more important than their presence at home. And it tells women, especially mothers, that we have to prove ourselves, either as endlessly selfless homemakers or as unstoppable professionals. And if you don't fit either box, you're somehow failing. But what if success is something different? I have yet to figure out the true balance to all of this, but what I have learned over the past 4 years is that when I quiet the outside noise and opinions of others, and instead listen to my internal compass, the balancing act feels a little less impossible, and the shoulds quiet down. So here's what I'm unlearning in real time. Pivoting is not failure. Pivoting is listening. Success isn't always the spotlight, the brand, or the title. Sometimes success looks like steadiness, like health, like being present with your child, like honoring your nervous system. And if you're in a season of pivoting too, here are some mantras I've been holding close. Pivoting is not quitting. Success is not tied to one path. My job title does not equate to my worth. I want to pause here and invite you in. Take a moment and ask yourself, what career, title, or role feels heavy right now? What part of you clings to it out of safety? What would it look like to loosen your grip? Just a little. If fear or anxiety come up, try this practice. It's called the RAIN practice. That's RAIN. I'll break down each letter for you. R is recognize what's there. A is allow it to exist. I is investigate with gentle curiosity to understand what it needs. N is nurture that part of you with compassion. The truth is, our society is living in a time of collective pivots. The pandemic cracked open so many scripts about work and family. People started asking, is this actually working for me? COVID blurred the lines between work and home, and suddenly nervous system-friendly workplaces weren't just nice to have, they became a priority. You see, for boomers, success was often defined as stability. Your job, whether inside the home or outside, was the path, and staying on it no matter what equaled success. Gen X carried that forward, but with grit, building the bridge that made way for something new. And now millennials and Gen Z are showing us that success doesn't have to look linear. It can be fluid. Multiple careers, portfolio lives, work that actually leaves space for mental well-being. And here's where nervous system literacy matters. Our society needs a different way to work. A way rooted in presence, pacing, and regulation. A way where leadership doesn't mean burnout, but embodiment. If you're open to it, here are some reframes to consider. Success is not a destination. it's a relationship. Pivoting does not equal failure. Pivoting equals resilience. The bravest work is choosing the path that fits your nervous system, not just your resume. I invite you to get curious with me and ask yourself, where in your life might success need a new definition? Maybe it's your career. Maybe it's your parenting. Maybe it's how you measure your own worth. Take a moment this week. Journal, reflect, or share with a trusted person. Ask, what if success could feel different? What would that feel like? Thank you for walking with me in this shift. I'm still unlearning in real time between Cecily May, the brand, and Mary Kat, the self. And maybe that's the point. Unlearning isn't linear. I know I've already said that. It's layered, it's lived, and ongoing. So thank you for being here with me on this journey. And thanks for stepping into the unlearning room with me. If something stirred in you today, titrate it slowly or bring it into conversation. That's where the unlearning begins. New episodes drop weekly-ish. You can find me on Instagram at the Unlearning Room Podcast or visit cecilymay.com. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind to the parts of you still learning.